At least 3 men, including 1 police officer, have been arrested following the gang rape and murder of 2 teenage girls in India. Police in Uttar Pradesh say they're still looking for 2 other men, one of them a police officer. The girls were found hanging from a tree early on Wednesday. 3 policemen have been removed from duty for not registering the cases when they were reported missing the previous night. Our South Asia editor Joanna Jolly reports.
Wednesday morning brought a gruesome discovery to the village of Katra in northern India. The bodies of 2 teenage cousins, one aged 14, the other 15, were found hanging from a mango tree. A post-mortem later confirmed the girls had been gang raped and had died from hanging. The cousins, who were from a low caste, had left home to walk into the fields because they had no toilet.
We were ready to go to the police station. Then a police officer came to me and said the girls are hanging from a tree.
Villagers say at first the police refused to investigate. So they staged a protest under the tree and refused to cut the bodies down.
Whatever happened, it was very wrong. It's a very serious issue. We are fully prepared and we are with the victim's family. We will take the strictest action against the culprits.
Despite new laws against sexual violence in India, rape remains a problem. The Indian media has likened these killings to the sort of violence that happened in medieval India, where low-caste women were seen as the property of higher-caste men who didn't have to account for their actions. Joanna Jolly, BBC News.
Staying in the region, Pakistan's Prime Minister demanded immediate action over the murder of a pregnant woman outside Lahore's High Court on Tuesday. Farzana Baduel was beaten to death with bricks by a group that included her own father and brother. Police are reported to have stood by during the attack, though they deny that. It stemmed from a dispute over Farzana's choice of husband. And in an extraordinary twist, the victim's husband has said he killed his first wife so he could marry Farzana. With me to discuss both of these stories is Farzana Baduel of CARE Pakistan, one of Pakistan's largest education charities. Thank you so much for coming in to talk to us. I mean, we can't necessarily equate the 2 cases. We're talking about 2 different countries, clearly. But is it fair to say across the subcontinent there are strong similarities in the attitudes towards women? I mean, the way some men behave towards women, also the attitude of some older women in some families towards younger women.
Unfortunately, sexual violence and murdering women has no borders. So it happens in South Asia, but it also happens around the world. In South Asia, there are particular cultural nuances. So there is a lot of violence between mother-in-laws and daughter-in-laws, instigating violence towards them. So there are cultural situations that bring about violence towards women. However, I think it's an international issue. In South Asia in particular, you have 2 cases, one in India which was sexual violence, and then the one in Pakistan that's been called honour killing, which I don't think there's any honour in what happened. There is a sense of feeling a sense of shame in terms of Pakistani families and Indian families, and they have this sense of honour, and if a girl goes and marries somebody else without the consent of the parents, then of course that is deemed to be very dishonourable, and it affects the entire family, it affects the marriage prospects of the other daughters. And so they go to extreme to protect their perceived honour, and some of them sadly end up murdering their own children, which is horrific. It is very hard, isn't it, to understand the particular horror of these 2 cases. Several viewers have been pointing out to us that there are things changing even in the most traditional areas. There are many more couples managing to marry without their parents' consent, and they are not beaten to death. They may have to run away, but they survive. Yes, well, it's true. I mean, take myself. My name's Farzana, like her. She married the man that she loved. I also married the man that I loved, and my family were very welcoming to him. And he actually is Catholic, Italian, and so we are 2 Farzanas from the same country originally. I'm from Pakistan, but yet we have completely different outcomes. So I think there is an element of socio-economic factors to be brought in. So the more the more educated families perhaps are more open to the idea of love marriages, and I think women are more vulnerable in rural areas. Presumably, given how long these attitudes have had to embed themselves in society right across the subcontinent to a large extent, this situation is not going to change quickly, is it? It isn't, but I think in a way in India in 2012 when the Delhi rape case happened, I think what was wonderful was the media of India and the international media. They really did reframe the narrative that this is completely unacceptable. And of course, this has been happening throughout the ages in India, in Pakistan, across the world. But it became such an important moment in history. And what's happened now is that there's an international scrutiny on any more sexual violence or murders taking place in India. And I think having that international media attention on these cases does push the authorities to take it more seriously, to manage to find the culprits, because ultimately what a lot of the problems it boils down to is corruption in institutions, corruptions in police, in the court. I think it was very ironic that Farzana actually died outside of a court, and I think for me that's a visual symbolism that is a failure of the institutions in Pakistan that has actually created that to happen, because ultimately they thought they could get away with it, because so many do get away with killing their wives or killing their daughters or sexual violence. They get away with it because they're from a more influential family. They can pay off the judges, or they can pay off the police, and it happens time and time again. And then in the case in India, one of the culprits ended up being a police officer. So there is institutional failures that are causing problems for women in India and Pakistan.
A lot of the facts there are still quite uncertain. We'll have to see how those pan out.
Absolutely.
Farzana Baduel from CARE, Pakistan, thank you so much.